welcome to ACMG. This is Joshua Long, North Suns Entertainment, and today we are going to be talking about adding a health display and score. So that's a little bit to cover. Okay, it's a lot to cover in a little bit of time. But we will make it go as painlessly as we can today. So, in order to make a health, you can start out and you can use images and create your own health bars that way, but GameMaker is really neat, and it allows you to create your health bars via a draw health bar function, as well as drawing score on screen. It's very easy. So in our objects, we want to create a new group, and this is going to be something that has to do with your game, and this is going to hold the score variables and stuff like that. So I'm going to put a global variables folder in here, and all you're going to do is create a new object. Instead of this object, we're going to name it obj scoring, and we're not going to put a sprite in it or mess with any of the settings. All we're going to do is add an event, add the create event, and then go to the controls tab and drag a code block into it. Now, when this event is created, it's going to create a score variable that we're going to track through the player's progress. So all we're going to do is put our scoring variable here. And I'm going to name it, it's an integer, so int score, and then we're going to set equal to 0. And since we want to use this in other areas of the program, we're going to actually call this a global.int score. Now what the global variable does when you add it in front of any custom variable, this makes it accessible to any objects in the game. Where if you just put int score equals 0, this variable will only be active in this object. But when you put global.int score, it becomes available to any other object in the game. And that's what we're going to do, is we're just going to make it a global variable. And all we're going to do is hit OK. So now we have this blank object here that holds the scoring variable, and if we wanted to add any more tools to it, like a player's 2 scoring or player 3 scoring, or different global scoring variables, you can add it all in there. And in order to get that to work, we are going to open up our title menu, and all we're going to do is we're going to go to the objects tab, and it's going to be object scoring, and we're going to click outside the room. And this little blue question mark is that object, and you can put it in the middle of the room if you want, wherever, but I like to leave anything that's without a sprite outside the room because it'll still function. And in order to make it still function, just to make sure it doesn't get deleted out of your guys' room, I want you to go to the File menu, click on Preferences, and then you want to go to the Forms tab, and you want to check down here where it says Room Form. You want to see where it says, when closing, remove instances outside the room. Make sure it's unchecked. This needs to be unchecked for when you add these objects outside, because if you don't, it's going to delete it when you close this. And it just allows you to, utilize all of this space. So we'll keep it outside the room, just outside the room. And you can go ahead and hit OK on that. So when the game starts, it's going to create this instance for object scoring. And just so it doesn't continually make this variable 0, what we're going to do is we're going to click this persistent checkbox here. And this allows the scoring object to go through all the rooms. Now if you wanted to, you could add it in the player and have it just on the player. Now that's not a bad idea either, and that's the route we're going to go. So if you prefer to do it this way, go right ahead. But since we're only going to use scoring for the player, we're going to use it just on the player. So in the player's create event, we're going to do the same thing, except we're just going to call it score. Well, int score. Just so that the player can use it, and this will be the player's score. Or, to keep it, uniform with all the other players, we'll call it p-score. And we should be good for the player. Now, in order to increment it, we're going to make sure every time one of the enemies die, we give the player a score. So we are going to go into the object enemies object, and when this object is destroyed, we have an event, and it creates another random enemy. So before that, we want to increase the player's score. And you can add any amount of score you want. But in order to reference this instance variable, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to type in obj player dot p score plus equals, and we'll just give them a score of 1. So what this does is it takes the object player, its variable, and then we add 1 to it. That's all that does. And we are done with that. Now, on the player's event, we're going to add an event. We're going to go under the draw functions, and we're going to add draw GUI. And what this is going to do is this is going to draw the player's score on the screen, like without affecting the room's view. So this isn't like the room itself is this large screen, but we are only using 320 by 240 of it, so it's this little box. So our score variable is going to have to be somewhere inside this little box rather than the whole room, and we're going to have it follow the player. So in the draw GUI, I'm going to go to control, drop a code block in there, and we're going to display the score using our draw text functions. So for this one, I'm just going to do draw text, and it's going to ask for the x and y, and let's just draw this at 0, 0. And then it's going to ask for the string, and this is the variable that we're going to do. And in order to convert that variable into something that can display, looks like it's lowercase, you type in string, open parenthesis, and then we're going to do int score. Oh, my apologies. We're going to do p score, and I think I have to change it in the other one too. I don't remember. And then just double close parentheses, and that is all you have to do to display the score on the screen. Now let me go ahead and make sure I didn't mess it up in the enemy because I forgot. Okay, p score, just making sure. So when that's done, what happens is every time I kill an enemy, it should draw the player's score on screen. Alright, so we have our score here, which is 0. Alright, I killed an enemy, I got 1 score. Kill another enemy, got more score. Alright, oh, dodging bullets here. Okay, got another one. And another. Alright, so it works. And that is good news. So close out of here. Alright, so you see how easy that was to draw a score? Now let's draw some health. Well, since our player only takes 1 hit, it doesn't, it won't do anything except for draw a health bar and then nothing. So we're going to give the player some health, and we're going to give him 3 health. So under the player variables, which we already have a section here for, we're going to call it p health equals 3. And then we're going to do p max health equals 3. So the player can have 3 health maximum, and his current health is 3. So those 2 variables are essential because we have to actually divide those out, multiply by 100 to get a percentage for the health bar. So after that's done, create those variables, and when the enemy shoots the player, we don't want it to kill them or restart the game anymore. What we actually want to do is we want to take that health and subtract it. But before we do that, we want to also make sure the player's health is not 0 before doing this, because if it is 0, then we want to restart the game. And so the way we do this is we're going to do an if statement. So this is that time where we learn this new function that I thought we were going to learn a while ago. So if open parenthesis, and we call it p health, is going to be less than or equal to 0, close parenthesis, space, put an open brace, and then I like to hit enter twice and put a closing brace, just so I keep everything organized and I don't forget what I need to open and close. And this is the statement that's going to ask if the player's health is less than or equal to 0, and if it is less than or equal to 0, this is where we're going to do our game restart. And then at the end of that other brace, you're going to hit space, and then you're going to type in else. And then you're going to do open brace, double enter, and then close brace. So what this does is if the player's health is less than or equal to 0, it's going to restart the game. Otherwise, or else, we're going to run some code, and this is going to subtract 1 health. So we're going to do p health, get my typing skills back, and then minus equals 1. So the player's health is going to subtract 1 if it's not less than or equal to 0. And that's all you have to do for the player. I'm going to just change my comments up here. And then okay, this is just to comment and make sure you know it's readable. So if the player's health is 0 or less than or equal to 0, let's restart the game. Otherwise, let's just subtract 1 from his health. And this will be every time he gets hit by a bullet. Now, the player should be able to get hit 3 times without dying. Let's go ahead and get some hits on me. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. And I'm dead. So you can do less than 1, which is okay too. This would be giving him 4 health essentially. So let's just do if player's health is less than 1. Let's try that out. Okay, new game. One, 2. This third one should kill me. As it did. Less than or equal to 1. So what happens is anytime a bullet hits the player, it checks what the player's health is at. So this makes sense. This will be 3. So it needs to be less than or equal to. And that's all for the bullet. Now we have the player's health, but we have no way of tracking it. And we can either do a number representation of it, or we can do a health bar. Now if your player has like 1 billion health and you want to track that, that's cool too. But we're going to just draw it on the graphical user interface, which is the GUI. Same place we did our score. And you can make it follow the player if you'd like, but you have to do a draw function, and I can show you that after this. But let's go ahead and just get the player's health drawn on the screen. So draw player's health. Alright, and so for this one, we're going to use a draw health bar function. And there are a ton of arguments here. We got x1, y1, x2, y2, amount, back color, minimum color, maximum color, direction, show back, show border. All this stuff is going to be what it looks like for your health bar. So for x1, this is going to be the starting location of the upper left-hand corner. And it looks like we already have 0, 0 taken up, so let's just put it at 10, 10. And these are going to be the x2 and y2 values, which are the bottom right corner of the health bar. And where do we want these? Normally a good 3 to 5 is a decent health bar. I'm going to just do 3. So this is the x, and we want the x to actually be, let's do 10. So we'll do it 20 by 13, and this should draw it to the right and down 3. Well, to the right 10 and down 3. And then this will be a nice looking health bar. And so the amount, this is where we are going to get the percentage of our player's health at this moment. And the way we're going to do this is P max health divided by P health times 100. And then after that, we're going to do the back color, and this is back colors. You can do C underscore, and they give you a plethora of colors. And we're just going to go with, the basic black for the background. And then it's going to ask for the min color, and so this would be like critical status of the health. So we're going to do C red. And then max color is going to be green, so C underscore green. And then it's going to ask for the direction, and it's going to be right, left, up, or down. And I think 0 or 1 might be right. We'll have to mess with it. To show the background, this is going to be showing the black background, and we're going to go ahead and, let's say, true, which is 1, and then show border, let's say 1 is true. So let's go ahead and test this out, see if we get exactly what I just stated. This is where testing comes in. As you can see, we got our health bar, and it is super, super tiny. So we're going to move it down a little bit. And actually, this starting X should be 0. And it'll go over 20. And 13 might be a little small. So let's go plus 5 on that. And let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so I could probably move it down a little bit and to the right. And so this is just all about tweaking. And so it's not that bad. It's really fun. We can, change so many different variables and whatever we want to do. Definitely overestimated the size of it. Okay, now we just need to move it down a little bit. So instead of starting at 10, let's start it at 12. I know these are weird numbers, but it's just to get it, perfectly on the screen in the spot that we want it. Alright, that should work. It's just a little bit up, and so I'm gonna move it down. This OCD is so bad. So let's just do 15. Let's round these numbers. It's 15 to 20. That's fine. Let's do 15, and that should be okay. Let's move this over just to kind of match it. Alright, let's try it out. And whether or not this looks good, I'm just going to keep it. Oh gosh, please work. That's a ridiculous health bar. But that's okay since there's only 3 health. Alright, so got an enemy to shoot. Have an enemy shoot me. Totally did not change. So what do we got here? Maybe it's the wrong way. Alright. Okay. Just gotta make sure you get those right, or else it will not display. Alright, there we go. So I just was doing it the wrong way, and anybody who's a math genius watching was probably like, oh my gosh, this guy. So now that we got it drawn on the screen and it looks decent, it looks decent, I can show you how to draw it above the player. So if you are not interested in watching any further, go ahead and end the tutorial now and go on to the next ones. Or you can sit here and watch how to draw this over the player while there's a view. It's pretty simple, but we're going to be just using a couple different functions to do so. Alright, so I'm going to copy all of this health. Actually, I'm going to cut it, more likely. And I'm going to add an event, I'm going to draw event, and I'm going to add the draw event itself. And in here, we want to make sure that we redraw the player. So draw underscore self is going to be the function that we're going to call. And what this does is it redraws the player so that in this draw function you can do whatever else you want while the player can still animate using other functions. The draw function, what it would do is if you did not draw that, it would completely get rid of the player and he would not show up on the screen. So if you have that problem, make sure you put draw self in there. And then down here we're going to draw the health bar. and now everything becomes local. So this is on the screen of the player is what we're going to make. And right now, this would literally put it in the room up at that corner. And I can show you here. Alright, did you see it? Did you see it when we moved? Alright, see how it's over there? It's like over in this section. If we move down here, it disappears. And that's because it's not following the screen. It's literally placed in the room at this part. So we can change that by making it locally to the player. And we're going to be changing a little bit of variables here. So we're going to do, actually, we don't even have to put object player, just put X, and then Y, and then I'm just going to put X and Y here. Now what's going to happen here is this is going to be the player's starting position, which is the X and Y, but we don't want it to literally be in the center of the player, so we're going to move it up. So Y minus, let's see, you can do player sprite if you want, which would be sprite height, so that would put it above the player. And I'm going to move it left, probably the sprite's width. And then this should, just with what we have here, this should make a very small health bar above the player. Well, it may not be existent actually. Okay, it is. It's there. And so what it's doing is it's drawing that the top left corner where that X minus sprite width and Y minus sprite height, and so it's making that, and then the other positions are X and Y, so it's placing it right here at the player. So what we can do is modify this just a little bit. The X is fine, but we want the Y just a little bit higher. So I'm going to put these in parentheses just for order of operations, and we're going to do minus, what do we got, 10? And so for the next ones, we're going to do X minus sprite, oh wait, X plus sprite width. And for this Y, we're going to do just Y minus sprite height. And this should draw it right above the player. And all these little variables are the actual in-game, in-engine stuff. And that's why they're highlighting them. And there you go. You have a health bar that follows the player. Pretty simple, and you can do it to the enemies too if you want. You can add health to the enemies and customize them the way you want. So as you can see, it's taking damage. Oh wow. That was so bad. Alright, so as you can see, we have the player's health and score showing, and it was very simple. You learned how to draw everything within the graphical user interface, which will follow the screen automatically, and then you have something that will follow the player. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and if you guys have any questions about all this stuff, please feel free to contact me. You can comment below, or you can go to my website. There's a billion ways to get a hold of me. So if you have any questions, just ask. And thank you guys, and look forward to the next tutorial.